Yo, what's poppin'? Final video of the day. We have the Shanghai Dragons against the Seoul Dynasty in the first round of the kickoff clash. So this was decided by Spark. They could have picked Seoul or Philly. They decided Philly was the play, leaving the Seoul Dynasty and potentially way off profit with the Shanghai Dragons. So the second seed Shanghai Dragons, 5-1 with a +4 map differential. You'll notice that is a staggeringly low map differential for being 5-1 against the Seoul Dynasty, third seed, 4-2 with a +6 map differential. So let's look at why Shanghai's map differential is so low. They get 3-0'd by Philly, first day of the season, first APAC game, I believe. Then they beat the Spark 3-2. Then they beat the Charge 3-2. Then they beat the Valiant 3-2. Then they beat the Hunters 3-1. And then they beat the Seoul Dynasty 3-1. So, 3-3-2s. Two of them against the bottom two teams in the league, standings-wise. And one of them against the Spark, which they narrowly win. So, definitely not the easiest path for Shanghai. For sure. But they aren't losing, so you can't hate them for it. They aren't losing. I believe I don't know if they were reverse sweeps, but I think it was match point for both. I think the Charge and the Valiant were both up 2-1, if I'm remembering. Maybe Charge were up 2. I don't quite remember, but very close. Again, maybe a match that shouldn't be that close. Moving over to Seoul, they lose to the Spark 3-1. They beat the Valiant 3-2. They beat Chengdu 3-0. They beat Philly 3-0. They beat Charge 3-0, and then they lose to Shanghai Dragons 3-1. They look pretty strong throughout this whole thing. That's a lot of 3-0s. A lot of 3-0s against a lot of 3-2s. Very interesting. But yeah, their only loss coming from Spark and Shanghai, who are the two people above them. So can't really hate them. Can't really hate on them for that. Neither of them are 3-2 though, so you might have to question, well, are they actually that much better than the two above them? Or are the two above them that much better that they won't even go to map 5 with them? And we'll see. Moving over to the roster. So, Shanghai. Izayaki, Bebe, Fleta, Who Are You, Void, Li Zhegan, Fate, and Lip. So Shanghai is playing both the Winston and the Zarya, as most teams have to do. But the Bebe is not getting any playtime at all. But other than that, the Smiler, they're all getting good playtime. Who Are You coming in and looking better than Fleta, in my opinion. Fleta is basically only in for Reaper at this point. I think they look stronger with Who Are You and then Fleta. But that's very hard to say because Fleta has been winning the map 5s. He's been winning them when it matters. So it's like, I wouldn't say having Fleta in is worse, but I think Who Are You has looked stronger, if that makes sense, in comparison. But yeah, they have played a little bit of Zarya, especially on maps like Coliseum and stuff like that. They've played Monkey. I think they're playing Monkey more. Off the top of my head, I'd like to say they're playing Monkey more. Maybe that's not true, but I feel like I see them on it more. Or maybe we see Who Are You on Genji more. I don't know. But yeah, pretty even. And they all have their own roles, right? Moving over to Seoul. 6-player roster, nice and short and sweet. Smurf being their only tank. They have Stalker, Prophet, and Fitz on the damage, and Creative and Vindame in on support. Stalker getting only like a map or two, I think. Not looking great against Shanghai when he came in. Seoul not looking great at times, looking very good at times. But it's just a story of Seoul Dynasty. Is Prophet going to be in his Prophet form? That's the biggest question, right? It's always been that, besides main tank. But now you don't have that problem because you have Smurf, which he's looked shaky on this area. And there have been times where the Seoul dive has looked awful and uncoordinated, but more often than not, they look like a solid team. Let's look at last season for the Shanghai Dragons. A lot of gold, sea of gold. Obviously, they win the Overwatch League Season 4. And they win 2 of the stage tournaments and come second in the other one and do not participate in the final one. Maybe they're resting up. Maybe they don't care. Who knows? But not participating in it. And they win the regular season, right? So you can't ask for a better season, and that's why you don't see many changes in personnel. Moving over to Seoul, they are swimming the sea of blue. They don't. They do make it to Hawaii, I believe. Yeah, they make it to Hawaii in the final one. But other than that, they don't make it. They don't qualify to Hawaii for any of them. And they kind of get shot down by either Chengdu or the Seoul Dynasty to try and get in. Regular season, they finish 7th, which is awful. And they come 2nd in the play-ins in the East, which means they do not actually make the playoffs. So a bit of a mid-season overall for Seoul Dynasty. But this is more or less the same story as last season. To be honest, nothing's really looked too different. So who knows what will happen here. Let's talk about this matchup. I have Shanghai. I'm just going to say it because it's very hard to bet against Shanghai until they actually lose, which they only did once in the first game of the season. The thing with Shanghai is they've looked bad until they are pressured to actually lose. Like once they actually have a possibility of losing, they pick it up again and they play not quite like we saw last season, but they play close to it, right? They still have very good ult tracking, they still have very good ult usage, their efficiency on their ultimates and how they plan their fights is still insane at times. You see them winning fights off of just nano boost into like 3 ults sometimes, and it's like, how do you do that? They have, I don't know. They're still a demon team when they want to be. For that reason, I'm going to have to take them against the Seoul Dynasty. That being said, Smurf knows how to win, right? Prophet has won. And if Prophet plays playoff Prophet, which we actually didn't see except for one time in the Countdown Cup last season, he didn't really get to the playoffs, as you would say. So maybe Tournament Prophet, maybe a step down from playoff Prophet, but Tournament Prophet, we'll see. Hopefully. And anything can happen at that point, right? So I'm going to give this one I'm going to give it a 3-1 for Shanghai still, despite that. They just did that last week. Seoul did not look great. Both of these matches in the kickoff clash for APAC in round 1, immediate runbacks from the previous week, which just makes sense because of how it has to be. But it was their last games, so like immediate runbacks. I don't know. Seoul Prophet wasn't fully there in that match. If he is, maybe it's a 3-2. Actually, yeah. No, I'll make it a 3-2 for Shanghai. I'll make it a 3-2 because I think Prophet will show up more. But yeah, it was a big concern seeing Prophet just take some fights off. Both these teams look very shaky at times, but it should be a fun match regardless, right? Even if I'm heading it into the standard Shanghai, even if I'm even every single round 1, I'm pretting the favorite. But Impact's for sure the one that has the higher chance of upsets. So if Seoul beats Shanghai here, I'll be a little surprised, I think, but I won't be like shocked. So yeah, that's it for me. That's my first round previews. Go check out the playlist at the end of this video, and go follow my Twitter account, Tom with 2 M's 004 for the owl content part. Tomorrow, expect me to. I'll probably make my bracket, give a rundown of that. My quick thoughts, quick overview. This is the previews is more in depth, but my bracket will be a little more quicker maybe, and just like a run through yada 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 whatever. And expect why X team didn't make the kickoff clash, which I think will be fun to make. So yeah, I am gonna go. Deuces, have a good one. Give it a like, give it a subscribe, and share it around. If anyone's asking about Squanchy's schedule or something, it was like, oh, how did their matches go in the qualifiers? This is a nice quick overview of two teams in about 10 minutes or so. So go ahead and have a good one.